Sydneysiders anxious about their finances. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your Steiner coffee and let's look at this article from news.com.au written by Gerard Goburn discussing, well, the results of an NAB survey that finds young Sydneysiders are top in the nation's most anxious about their finances. Yeah, I can see that. There are going to be more and more people that sadly are getting a dose of reality. That perhaps they haven't been living beyond their means. Perhaps they haven't built up an emergency fund. Now, if you're in that situation, that's normal. Maybe you need to just go through some tough times to get a dose of reality so you get things under control. That's nothing to be ashamed of. That can be one of the best things that's ever happened to you in your life. When you have 6 months to 12 months of just emergency fund money just sitting there, that if something goes wrong, you can draw upon that. If there's a disaster, you can draw upon that. If you don't need to say yes, from a small business perspective, you don't need to say yes to every terrible project just to keep your staff employed or keep the business going. That is a huge stress, huge source of anxiety off your back. I mean, that's something we went through. We'd have times where people wouldn't pay us and money would needed to come in, and you'd get all this money in and you'd already spent it. You'd already spent it to pay your staff, to pay for this, but pay for that. So, it's on but you're ever getting ahead, you're just running. So sometimes it's just having those buffers in place. And to get there, well, you need to go through every single one of your costs. Do a line-by-line item where all of your money is going, seeing where it's all flowing. Sometimes you don't appreciate how much $5 here, $10 here, $15 here a month can add up. Oh, look, there's $100. Oh, look, there's half my mortgage payment for a week there that's going out every month. Let's get rid of those things. Oh, I'm eating lunch out. That's an expense. That's what this, drastic change to the economy and disruption to people's lives could give them an opportunity to address. So I'm hoping people come out of this better and stronger. Maybe I'm just being naive, but we can see. So let's have a look at this piece. So young Sydneysiders, and I'm not surprised, the cost of living in Sydney is pretty high, although the rest of the country is catching up, have topped the list for the most financially anxious in the nation, with a new report flagging high rents are fueling the stress. Now, my understanding is rents are starting to fall in Sydney, and I will bring up, let's look up SQM. This is asking property prices. I want asking rent for 2000. We can see here, okay, so all units, they've gone down in November and they're back up again. Okay, houses are up. So we're starting to see, from 2000, the beginning, look at that. 2000, the beginning, 2-bedroom units were nearly $1,000 a week. A week. Oh boy. Yeah, okay. And now they're down to 750 a week. 2-bedroom. Nearly $1,000. You spending $500 a week rent if you're sharing. Maybe you'd get 2 couples in there to get it down to something reasonable. But so rents have fallen down, but they're still insanely high. Why is anyone living in Sydney? Why? Tell me. Sure. It's a nice city. It's not that good, is it? So, NAB's index fell 39.3 points from 40.6 in the fourth quarter of the last calendar year, with New South Wales residents replacing Victorians as the most anxious about their financial security. The country's largest business bank also found women in Sydney aged 18 to 29 were more stressed than their male counterparts. NAB head of behavioural economics, Dean Pearson, said the pandemic had broadly hit younger demographics that make up the bulk of workers in some of the hardest hit industries such as tourism and hospitality. I mean, and one could argue that these younger people are also the least at risk for hospitalization. Remember how the mitigations into the economy were put in place to, stop the overwhelming of our healthcare system. Just remember that. That was the rationale behind it. It seems to have been lost. And Well, it's the people who are least at risk of needing those services are disproportionately being affected by these interventions. Some parts of the population and some industries have been harshly hit by the interruptions. And we know that this has impacted women and younger people who were more heavily exposed to jobs that were more readily lost, Mr. Pearson said. The bank's index found Australians who had experienced financial hardship had risen compared with the previous quarter, with the increase largely due to people believing they do not have adequate funds to pay for emergency expenses. So that's it, they don't have their emergency fund. Maybe they've burned through it. The typical thing is not having enough for an emergency or unable to pay a bill or not having enough to pay for food or basic necessities. But when you look at the 18 to 29 cohort, despite the fact that rent has certainly come down in price, rent pressure is still there. I'm not surprised looking at how expensive rents are for a 2-bedroom place in Sydney. I bet you they're all terrible too. Roughly 21% of respondents to NAB's Wellbeing Survey reported impacts to their income within the fourth quarter. However, 77% of people looked to save more. Mr. Pearson noted outstanding credit card debt was the least concern to Australians, followed by mortgage debt. More men than women had credit card debt, according to the bank's survey. Victorians booked the second highest level of financial anxiety, followed by West Australians. Tasmanians were the least financially concerned. Mr. Pearson said the end of JobKeeper and the tapering of other fiscal measures would likely influence financial anxiety levels in the first quarter of the current year. This is also in combination with lower inflation. Lower inflation. Sure. Meat's getting more expensive. Everything seems to be getting more expensive. Houses, they're definitely getting more expensive. And an expectation of a stagnant wage growth for some time. Are wages ever going to grow? They won't grow until we have increased demand for workers and increased capacity. We're producing more. It's hard to anticipate strong wage growth in the current environment, Mr. Pearson said. Oh yes, he's right. So everyone, Sydneysiders are the most anxious for their finances, and it looks like it's because the young people who are most affected by these lockdowns don't have emergency funds. What can you do? If you're in that situation, my suggestion would be to go through your budget, to cut every single thing that you can, to start selling everything you have. We've had to do that. When times got real tough, I had $500,000 contract fall through. 6 months of work, just the project got cancelled. And that was what I was preparing for. I'd taken money that I'd earned to invest in equipment and kept staff on over the holiday break because this project was going to keep us through for the next year, and I'd been putting a whole lot of energy in taking care of this one client, and sadly it fell through. So, in some ways that was quite stressful, very stressful, but it also was the slap in the face I needed to get everything under control, to just, finally I could step off the treadmill and I could have a look at our situation. And I saw, we're wasting money here, so I found ways to consolidate debt. I cut our costs to the bone. We really, really went tight with our spending. You'd be shocked at how little things can add up. You really would. One strategy I learned about afterwards was when I discovered Dave Ramsey on YouTube and the snowball technique for attacking your debt. Once you've got your budget and you know where all your money's going, once you cut all the costs, once you sell anything that you don't need, like an old Game Boy or any toys you have, any tools you don't need, sell everything you can. Then use it to attack your debt. The snowball technique is to attack the smallest one first. So you build up, you get the momentum, you get the psychological impact. That's what I'd be suggesting you do. It's not the end of the world. It can be tough, but it could be a better outcome in the long run. And maybe if you're paying, insane rent in Sydney, it's time to move. Just saying. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Leave what advice you would give someone in the comments down below. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching that have been through the last recession And, well, they got out the other end. In the moment, it may seem like life is overwhelming, but it can work out in the end. Sometimes you just need someone to share their experience with you so you can realize, you know what, yeah, it can work out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. You can join us support us using MeterX or SelfWealth as well. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.